Hey, what's going on? My name is Marcos Rocha, and I'm a director of photography based out of the San Francisco Bay Area. And in this video, I want to share a reenactment of a call I had with a potential client. This one stuck in my head for a couple days. I even needed to talk to a couple of filmmaker friends of mine to share what happened there and what the heck was going on because I don't feel like I did my best guiding it through. But at the end, we had a second call with this potential client, and it just fell through. So I decided to sit down and write what I remembered from the first conversation we had, and I put it into a spreadsheet. And then I called my friend Chris, and I recorded ourselves going through this script. He's acting like the client, I'm acting like myself, responding what I remember. And I recorded the phone call, and so I wanted to share with you. And at the end, you'll see we'll talk a little bit about our thoughts on what happened there. So without further ado, let's get into it. Obviously there was the introductions about, hey, what's your name, what do you do, where your company, and all that. We did all of that, and then here's where we start reading the script. And so we got all the, what do you call it, the introductions out of the way, and he told me about his company and all that stuff. And now it's just like, now this is where I jump into like, all right, so tell me about the project. So go ahead, Chris.
So basically, we're making a short documentary. It's about a man who's been in and out of jail and how he's managed to transform his life. And I want to film an interview with him, plus some B-roll at a park. I also need some establishing shots, and that's about it. And I saw your work. I like what you do. I saw your gear. And I think you have everything we need to get this project done.
Great. This is something like that I can do. I'm involved in a lot of documentaries. So my question is, have you confirmed a date?
So no date confirmed yet, but it's looking like Saturday's potential day that we want to shoot.
Okay, this Saturday. And what city are you filming in?
East Bay, but I'm not sure.
So you're not sure yet about the city. So it's just this one interview and B-roll?
Yes, just that interview, one interview in the B-roll.
I'll be just handling the filming, and then I'll give you the footage at the end.
Exactly.
No post-production. So what is the budget for this?
So for this project, we got $1,000 budgeted in. This is kind of what we've paid in the past, so that's what we got budgeted.
Is this just for the day rate, or is this all inclusive?
This is for the shooting, the gear.
Oof. Okay. So to be honest, this is kind of low. My day rate alone is 1,000.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is usually what we pay for a day shoot. Shooter to come in, capture, bring his gear. Is this something you can work with?
I mean, thinking about what the gear I want to bring and like to do this right, what I can do is $1,500. That's with one camera, a lav mic, and one light. Is this something you can do?
I mean, we could do 1,200. I mean, because $1,000 is honestly what we had budgeted. So 1,500 is a little outside of the scope. I mean, 1,200. Does that work?
If this is like your max budget, then I can do this with my Sony FX3. We don't know yet what city or neighborhood we're going into, and I wouldn't feel good bringing my Sony FX9. That's the bigger camera because it draws too much attention to ourselves, especially for filming B-roll outside. The thing about the Bay Area is there's been cases of people getting robbed over their camera gear. So I think we got to be careful there.
Okay.
And also one last thing, like the last times I filmed in the East Bay, we've had security with us because it's gotten pretty bad.
Okay. Well, we didn't have security budgeted in.
So is there another crew you're looking at or hoping to bring on, or is it just you and I?
So it's just you and I. I'll be flying in from LA, land in Oakland. So if you can pick me up, that would actually be nice.
We'll see if I can do that. I'm not sure yet, depending on what time we start and what time you arrive. So we'll see.
Okay. Another thing, I just want to let you know that I am kind of looking into some other DPs. And if I hire you, I kind of don't really want any excuses that, the production quality is going to come down or a lack of gear due to budget. And I really want you to do your best job.
Yeah, and I do want to do my best job, but again, there's not enough crew to help out, and also the budget, is limited. So I can't promise to achieve what you saw on my website. That was mostly done with crew people. So there's multiple people and there's more resources involved.
Well, I mean, regardless of the budget, I just want to make sure that with the budget that we're working with, that you're doing your best job, within that budget. With the gear that you bring in, the budget that we're paying you, that you're going to do your best job.
Yeah, again, I want to do my best job, but I do need help, and it would help if I had like someone helping me, at least with audio, so I can focus on the camera and the lighting and all that stuff. So I don't know, is there any way to fit in an extra crew member?
I mean, perhaps an assistant or like a second camera operator.
Oh wait, you want a second camera? I mean, what sort of budget do you have for another assistant?
I mean, $500
$500 just for labor?
for, you know, yeah, them and their camera.
Okay. Well, again, this budget is low for the Bay Area. Like the circle of friends, filmmakers I know will not take on the job for this much. $500 with the camera. If you're looking at a camera operator in the Bay Area, I think they're charging 750, 850 just for labor. That's without any gear.
Okay. I mean, we've been doing this for about 20 years now, and this is usually the rates we're paying that we usually pay our guys.
I hear you, and obviously there's different experience levels. But again, for that budget, we need someone with like very little experience, perhaps a film student who has a camera. That's someone I could possibly talk to. Is there anything else we didn't cover?
Well, aside from that, do you have a drone?
Yeah, I have a drone.
Okay. Because we're gonna need some establishing shots.
All right. So usually I charge extra for drone, but I understand you have a $1,200 budget, so I'll try to stick to that. I'll give you the drone, my camera, the FX3, one lab, one light, and I can do that.
Okay, well that kind of brings something to mind. If in case we interview a second person, do you have a second lav?
Yeah,
Okay. What brand of lavs do you use?
I have Sennheiser Labs.
Okay. Let me think here. Well, for the B-roll, we're gonna want nice steady shots. So, do you have a gimbal?
Actually, my gimbal just broke, so I'm gonna have to rent one. I can rent one for like $50. Again, I'm trying to be mindful of your budget. I will find out if I can, get that rented, and also I'll talk to production assistants with camera experience who can help us with this project. But again, like that 500, I'm gonna have to get back to you on this one. See if I can find anyone.
Well, just let me know as soon as you can, because this is coming up quick, and again, we don't want the budget to compromise the quality of the shoot, and we really want you doing your best job possible. So, and then also, if you need extra lights, bring them. Any gear that you need, we really want you to bring it, so we make sure we're doing our best job. I'll keep you updated, and if there's anything else that comes up, just feel free to reach out.
Yeah, as soon as you know, please let me know. If you know the city, also you confirm the date. That way I can block it. Usually I'm free Saturdays, but you never know. All right. Well, thank you so much. And
All right, Marcos. Thanks, man.
click. How do you feel, man? Like, what's your general?
I felt like everything was good. Maybe that very last one seemed strange to me because I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, I was just trying to. I guess I was trying to rush the ending there.
Yeah, no, because it felt like he's agreeing, like, okay, you're coming, right? Like he's kind of ending the call, like, hey, we're good. You're good.
That's how we left it. It was kind of like, yeah, I'm taking on the job for sure. Like but he kind of like put that. How he introduced that, like, well, I'm talking to other people, kind of like to say, yeah, I can drop you anytime. I think that's why they do that. You're competing now for this job. You don't, even if I'm talking to you, like it's, like I'm excited about you, I can drop you any moment. I think that's the psychology behind that. I have options.
Right. You're not the only one.
Right. And so that was my impression. I guess what you doesn't come across, like we were reading off this script, but what you don't get is this guy was pretty nice overall, but it got a little snarky when he's saying, I want you to do your best job. I don't want any excuses. And to me, that's like a lecture. He was kind of lecturing me. I don't know how, it just felt wrong. It was just the first one. And then I don't know if he keeps adding stuff. And I think he got the impression that just because I have a bunch of stuff on my website, that everything's coming out. Because even he asked me about my van. Oh, you have a van with everything we need. So again, I didn't put in the script everything you read, everything that was said. I'm just paraphrasing, but I think he was under the impression I was going to bring everything. Everything is for the same price.
Yeah. I mean, it's also difficult for the clients because the clients don't know. They just think
Mm.
everything under the sun's included. I'm hiring you. It comes with everything, right? They just think it's this a la carte buffet. And trying to educate them on that in one phone call can be difficult sometimes. So, I mean, perhaps those are barriers that you can overcome before the call. Like maybe it could be on your website, that there's different levels. I mean, there's really no right or wrong approach to this, and I'm still trying to figure this out for myself. Um, but yeah, getting a client that just doesn't understand is
Yeah,
difficult, especially if they've
and,
like worked video. It's endless. There's you could bring a truck full of gear. We could bring a crane. We could bring the baddest ass lighting. We can work with the best cameras. So to get them to understand that there's different levels to this is a difficult thing.
right. And also I have to say that usually now the way I've structured my website, or usually I'm talking to agencies. Whereas this client, I was looking at their website. It was not an agency. It was just more like an educational site for social causes, and the quality wasn't great. So that was immediately like, okay, I'm not talking to an agency. This is more like a end client, which I usually don't talk to anymore. And so the process is very different, the way you talk to them and the way they see things, right? Agencies, they totally understand, oh, you want this camera, it's going to cost you more. You want this lens, boom, the budget jumps up. And now we need focus. They understand all those things, all those layers. But when you're talking to an end client, they don't understand that all these other supporting roles. And again, I think that what I got sense from talking to this person is like, oh, this is not an agency I'm talking to. It's going to be a harder sell. It's more explanation as to, well, it's better quality, and you want to talk to them about that, but you really can't. They don't understand. That's not what their reality, right? So
Yeah,
that I think that's what I read between the lines that maybe didn't come across here on this conversation.
right.
And another thing, like here's the thing, dude. It's like we're in wintertime. I haven't been working much, and like this is one of the few calls. I feel like I'm rusty when I have this phone conversation, and also a little needy for work. And so there's a bunch of red flags throughout this, but I'm like, I'll make it work. I'll give you the drone. Oh, you want more audio? Sure, and I'm trying to set my foot, and I'm not, because I want this job. I want I want to make some money and pay my rents.
Right.
That also doesn't come up. Maybe does come across here on the little script. I don't know if you saw it.
Right. No, totally. I get it. And one thing that works for me, and this is just my approach, because I'm very ADD and I could tend to like go off on a tangent and start talking and I say too much. And the next thing I know, I'm cornering myself. Oh, I just mentioned, because I'm trying to talk myself up. I mentioned I have all this gear. Now the client thinks I'm bringing all this gear. And then I'm like, so in order to avoid that, I've found it's best to just use the phone call as like an information gathering source. Gather as much information as possible, not quote any prices over the phone, and then basically just say, okay, with all that information that you provided, I'm going to submit a proposal. And then from there, you have the time to really dial it in. You can put it however you make your proposal, whether it be an email or you put in like a nice flashy PDF. Then you can sit there and take your time to really think over each aspect of what you're going to pitch to the client. And that way you don't say anything that you shouldn't have said on the phone call. For me. Now, I know that there's other people that are just straight up diehard businessmen. They're great on the phone. I'm not that guy. So I wish I was that guy. But for me, I just need to submit the proposal. And then once they have the proposal, then I'm a little more confident. I understand the project and I can kind of defend why it costs this much, because I understand what they're trying to accomplish. Well, if you want this, it's going to take this to accomplish it. Hey, you want aerial shots? It requires a drone. You want, room shots of 10 people in it. It's going to require a lot of lighting to light all 10 people. So we're going to need these lights. And those are kind of things that it's hard to convey on the spot right over the phone.
But do you ever feel like you might be wasting too much time and you might be dealing with someone who just wants a price like right now and maybe you spend all this time on a proposal and then to find out, oh, they only have $1,000 and now you wasted an hour doing a proposal.
Yeah, definitely. You bring up an interesting point. And usually the best way to overcome that, for me at least, is right off the top, ask them if they have a budget. Like, do you have a budget? Just like, we did in the call. From my experience, most of the time I find though, is they don't offer a budget. They kind of just say,
Yeah.
well, we want to know how much it costs. So what are your rates? Well, what's your budget? Well, what's your rate? And then it goes back and forth. So you're a little, and that's why if you get into that over the phone, it's a little risky to start quoting prices before you completely understand the full scope of what they're trying to accomplish. Because you may quote a price and then, further down the line, the client keeps adding stuff on. And oh wait, well you didn't mention that. Well, now we're gonna have to raise the price, and then that'll irritate the client. And they're like, wait, we're gonna raise it. Well, you didn't mention that before. So, I mean, in this circumstance, I just think it's best to just get all the information first. Ask them if they have a budget, because honestly, sometimes their budget might come in way higher. I've had times where I'm like, okay, I'm thinking in my mind like, all right, I'll do this job for X amount of money. I ask the client, what's your budget? And it comes in way higher. I'm like, oh, inside, I'm like, oh, sick, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I was gonna say something like way less, but all right.
That's rare. Usually, like I've gotten a couple times where they do tell me like a higher budget, or usually it's like, well, that's what we're trying to find out, and we're trying to, we're talking to different people about it, and so you let me know what it is, and like, God, this project can be anything, like you haven't really given me anything. So when you write a proposal, do you submit like just one price point, or is there like what do you do there?
So with that, I mean, that's another tricky area, because on one hand, if you itemize everything out, the client may come in and start tearing things out. Oh, I don't need this. Well, I don't need that. Well, we could take care. We don't need this, So that's kind of risky because of that, versus if you just do a very vague price and it includes, full scale production, professional gear kit. If you start like listing all your gear, they may get in there and be like, well, we don't need diffusers, or we don't need this, or we just need one light. That's kind of the risk that you're exposing, is they're going to start tearing things out. So for me, I find it works a little bit better to keep it vague and, a vague description of each aspect that you're bringing to the shoot.
Now, it is different though if you're dealing with the end client, a business owner versus an agency. Whereas I think where the agencies do want to see the line items.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. With agencies, they kind of already know what they're looking for. They already have the price and they understand the industry standard rates. So in that aspect, it's a lot easier to work for them.
Also like understanding where you're at, right, in your career, if you can afford to not take the job, and because you have the industry standard, right? So this is what I'm battling, is like, this is the industry standard, it's this much, and this is my minimum, protecting that, versus also like feeling like I'm being greedy, right? Because this is for a greater cause. And I think that maybe like documentary filmmakers are drawing more to like, yes, this is a greater cause, and they're so passionate about the greater cause. Where I'm like, I have kids, and I gotta protect. I gotta make sure I pay the bills, and I also gotta protect the industry standard, because I'm also screwing other people and screwing the whole industry. And so you have these competing thoughts, and usually it's like, well, that's where I have my number, and I don't go below that. And if I do, maybe I'll do it for a friend, or if I'm like a passion project or something like that. But when it's a client and they have and I see that they have money and they're for profit, usually It's like, well, sorry. I mean, this is what it is.
Yeah, or in that same line, they'll say like, "Oh, this is going to really give you a lot of exposure." You know, our budget's a little bit low, but it's going to give you a lot of exposure, and you're there, or it's going to lead to more opportunities down the line. That's kind of in the same camp.
Yeah.
It's just this one video for now, but our budget's only this. It's a little small, but we're going to do like 10 more down the line. So that they kind of get you in like, all right, well, I can do it for a little bit cheaper as long as there's more work. But I found that that's usually not the case. They're just kind of hunting for a
Yeah.
cheaper price, and they're
Yeah.
trying to get you on the line, kind of get you hooked. And that's kind of where you just need to decide, what is your value.
Another thing, like I had a second call with this guy, with this client. We had a second call, and the same thing happened. Is just at the end, we talked about what he wanted to do, and he asked me, he told me the same thing again. He's like, well, last on our phone call, on our last phone call, you sounded like, money was a big issue for you. And I don't want any excuses. As soon as he said that again, it's like, I was like, I'm over it. He definitely doesn't see the value in what I bring to the table, and also the way he's talking to me was a red flag. Um, he's like, perhaps this is not the job. Just tell me now because I have other people on my list, and that was like the breaking point. Like, you're right. It's better if I don't go. I don't think I can do my best job. Plus, he finally told me the city, and it was like it's kind of like a dangerous, like a bad neighborhood. Like, oof, I can't bring everything. Like, especially if it's just me, one person. There's no way I can bring all the lights that I want because I'm doing everything, and they only have 1 hour to set up, and because we're talking about all of this, like I can't possibly do it for that price, and I know that I could do something decent, but it came down to his attitude, the way he was talking to me. It just rubbed me the wrong way, and I think that was the breaking point.
So wait, what was the outcome of that? Did you end up not working with him, or?
Yeah, I didn't work with him because he just, I told him like I don't think you're right. I don't think it's gonna work out. Given the everything you're asking for, you're adding on like the second phone call, he's just adding more stuff. Like, yeah, come and pick me up in the morning, and like, wait a minute, that's super early. Like we won't start until really late, and so it's just like it compounds into like, wait a minute, this is becoming too much, and so the ability to say no, to walk away, I don't know, it's always been hard for me because I think maybe I try to please people and give them the best of me. But at the same time, like there's got to be like you set boundaries where like as much as I need some income coming in, this just feels very wrong.
Yeah, and I found that sometimes if you end up taking the smaller job at the price that you didn't want, you end up doing a high level of production anyways. At least for me, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of roll in. I'm like, well, I don't want it to look like shit, and this is my work. And the next thing you know, you're doing full cinema camera, full blown lighting, and you're giving them the whole thing anyways. And because at the end of the day, it's your work, and someone might see this work, so I want it to look good. And then you end up basically just kind of giving yourself away, and that's fine in a sense if someone else discovers your work and down the line it leads to more work. But at the same time, that's where it's important to just know your value, sometimes hold your ground if you're in the position to do that. Obviously
Yeah.
everyone's on a different, scale of where they're at in their career. And that's it's hard to educate the client on that, because in order to just do the job, I mean, add the gear up. Just the gear alone, you're looking at a $3,500 camera body on the low end. If you're going into cinema cameras, then you're going way higher. Each lens, tripods, lights, and that's not even counting, your expertise.
Exactly. I just got a phone call like 2 days ago from a client. They wanted me to fly drone. And I said, well, they wanted the Mavic 3 Cine, the Cine version. I'm like, I don't have it. I have the Mavic 2 Pro. If you want the Mavic 3 Cine, you have to rent it. And I looked on ShareGrid. It's like $600 per day because that's a $5,000 drone. Now, I put it on the quote. It's $600 just for me to rent it. Like that's what it costs, and plus I need the insurance on it. And so, boom, the price jumps up. Now, if I own that drone, $5,000, and like let's take it back to this client. Hey, can you just add the drone? What if I didn't own a drone? That's you have to rent that. But now once you own it, you stop understanding the value of your gear. Then we start giving stuff away and we forget that if we just wanted to rent that piece of gear, it would cost money.
Another approach that could potentially help is asking the client in the beginning, you know, what are your goals? What are you wanting to achieve? And what is the value? What do you value these goals at? So you just say, hey, what are your goals? What do you want to achieve this project? Well, I want this film to do this, this, and this, and this, and this. And then, well, how do you value those goals? What would you price that at? You know, if they don't know, if they don't have a budget, then they just got done through telling you how lavish this and, you know, how amazing this is going to be, versus starting from the other end of the spectrum and then trying to educate them on why it's expensive. You had them just tell you.
But I think that the like value-based pricing, it's a very tricky conversation to have with a lot of clients because they just want a video and like there's nothing you can do to convince them otherwise. And they don't want to hear any about that. It's just to them, they just need a call it a videographer to do the job, and that's all they care about, you know. So those conversations, I found that for me is just usually I'm not dealing with those type of clients that you can have that kind of conversation. On that note, dude, thank you so much, and like hopefully we'll do this again. If you have another conversation like this, I think it's very helpful for people to hear this, like who trying to figure out. And I think there's a lot of us, but we rarely have this conversation with other people. So thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me.